Hello, this is Julia Davis of Finchley Yoga and Yoga Teachers Forum, and I'm here today with Anthea Sweet. Good afternoon, Anthea.
Hello, hi, great to be here.
Good. I'm here to talk to you about all things yoga, but also because you're coming to join us to run a session which is about anatomy applied. It's actually being on the mat and understanding our bodies through movement, which is delicious. And you're going to be with us on the 3rd of July for a whole day. I'm very excited about that. So that's lovely. I wanted to first, though, ask you about how you came to practice yoga in the first place.
Gosh, how I came to practice yoga, I guess in the 1990s, my parents had both practiced yoga in the kind of 70s, 80s, where it was a very different thing with shiny leotards. So it was kind of at the forefront of my mind. I moved house to my first flat and wanted to make friends in the area. So I thought yoga would be great because it was kind of the evening class thing. That was an Iyengar class. I didn't know it was an Iyengar class at the time, but it was an Iyengar class. And I kind of took it from there. And then when I moved to where I am now, which is north of you in Barnet, I became pregnant with my first child and attended a great yoga class with the teacher I was then with for nigh on 10 years, who saw me through both of my pregnancies, and who's only just retired at the age of 87. She's amazing. I want to be Joyce Blank. Lovely. She's not very well known on the circuit. She doesn't sort of put herself about, but you know, she's had a really loyal following teaching in this area, and she was my inspiration for training. So that's how it all started, and then I trained in 2004 with British Will.
And I know you, so I know that you also practice massage and you've been doing further training. How did that blend into that? Did the massage come before the yoga teaching, or did the yoga teaching come before the massage? How did they come about together?
So the yoga teaching came first. That was in 2004, which was when I started my training. When I left corporate life, I used to work in publishing for 20 years. When I left that, I was teaching my yoga classes. I did more training. I took Gary Carter's anatomy course, the second course that he ran, I believe, in London. And from that, I then went on to train with Yoga Sports Science, who I now work with as their head of faculty, working with sports people and applying yoga in the sports world. And I guess it was from there, when I was thinking about branching out my career from there, sports massage, I'd always wanted to do a massage course, whether it was to become a practitioner or just to be able to do it. And so I took a sports massage course because it seemed to be a good sort of alignment with the skills that I already had. I don't think I realised at the time what a good alignment that was going to be, because it gave me huge advantage in the kind of anatomy area, because we went very deeply into anatomy stuff in the sports massage course that I did, because I did a level 5 course, which is the level where you start dealing with injuries and clinical practice and so on. So yeah, the massage came later, and now I'm training in, just about to finish my training in myofascial release, which is another soft tissue technique. So you know, my anatomy knowledge is being furthered again, and that's the bit that I really like about, you know, my yoga teaching now, that I don't just focus on anatomy, but there's lots there to offer for you know, people who want to work in that way.
That's fascinating. So it sounds as though you entered yoga, and the kind of lots of people who started in the 1990s, myself included, went to a class. Oh, it's Iyengar, because that's the yoga that was there pretty much.
That's true, actually. That's true. Yes.
So we learned, you know, our forms, and then it's interesting that the path that you took almost, you know, very, very early on was, I'm interested in the body and the way the body works and anatomy and physiology, and then through that you came to massage. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I did round about the time that I was doing my training with Yoga Sports Science. I actually took a weekend massage course at the place, which I then went on to train with in sports massage. There was a 5-year gap between that weekend course and actually doing the diploma in sports massage. So it was kind of always something that was at the back of my mind, you know, learning more about the body. All the time I was sort of teaching my yoga and all the time the body was becoming more and more fascinating to me now. And now it's getting into the realm with the myofascial release work that I do, where, you know, I'm beginning to understand the connections between mind and body and how body stores trauma and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's a whole nother load of training I might do one day.
It's lovely. I was just reading an article actually about yoga training and about how some people start with their 200 hours and that's enough. But when I look at all the yoga teachers that I know quite a few, none of us stop at the beginning. You know, it's very much that teacher training is day one of a journey maybe that we started taking when we started practicing. But because we love what we do, we're always going to be seeking out ways. It's interesting. I will pick up a yoga book on purpose and read it. There's some that I read from cover to cover. So, you know, it's lovely that you're kind of like, oh, what will I learn next? It's lovely.
Yeah, I think there's some, I love the fact that we can take bits of it and explore bits of it. So for me, my first big training after qualifying, it took me about, it would have been 2-3 years after my initial British Wheel diploma before I did another big course, which was Gary Carter's anatomy course. And I only did it at a time when I kind of, you know, I'd left my day job, I had more time on my hands, I could do it. And it kind of went from there. And each time I do a training, I think, oh, this is going to be my last one. This is going to be my last one. But it never is. It never is. But the one kind of policy, if you like, that I do have is that if I take something on, I do see it through. I make sure I can see it through, and I do it in a reasonable time. So the diploma I'm doing at the moment for the myofascial release training, some people take years and years to do it. I'm actually trying to get it done in like 2 years.
Yeah.
So I've just decided I want to get that finished so that I can then put all that into my clinical practice and go on to the next thing. And who knows what that's going to be? I don't know yet. I'm looking out for it on the way, on the journey.
It's funny. I know I found myself on a really long Sanskrit course by accident because I'd met the
teacher. Okay.
It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It was, you know, it was just something fantastic to do. But it's amazing, you know, the paths that we find ourselves in. It sounds like, you know, rather than mine's very eclectic. I like to play around with things that I might be interested in here, there, and everywhere. But it sounds like yours is very tailored, because to go from doing a British Wheel training to working with Gary, to going into sports, it's like the body, and then connecting the body to everything else. I mean, there's a lot around.
Yeah, I think
the body. And
yes, there is a physical focus, if you like, to the way that I've taken my career, but that doesn't mean to say it doesn't have its sort of grounding in yogic traditions, which are, you know, not just physical. Because actually, for example, the yoga sports science, the way that we train coaches there is to work in a yogic way, which is challenging in the world of sports sometimes because athletes are competitive.
Yeah.
And they're not used to kind of, you know, saying, well, I'm going to drop back from this. I'm not going to be competitive with myself or the person next to me. And that has all taught me an awful lot about, you know, how to work with the body and the mind in a non-competitive way. And I've a lot of the kind of way that I apply anatomy now is really about how sports people use their bodies. And it's not just sports people, because everybody is an athlete in some way, you know, in that they have movements, they have repetitive movements, they have injuries that come from repetitive movements, they have habits, they have gestures, they have injury history, you know, all of those things. And what's fascinating to me is that they arrive either in my yoga classes or in my therapy clinic, and they have different ideas about how they're going to fix this, or how they are going to work with me, or how they are going to develop their journey. And they're often looking for advice as well. And, you know, and looking to us as teachers and therapists to give them that guidance.
Yeah.
And that I've learned so much from all my students and all my clients, because you can't say that person should do that.
Yeah.
Because it may not work for them, and they may not be mentally ready to accept it either.
Yeah. And I think it's nice to have kind of a cross-disciplinarian approach. Is that the way you say it? So if someone comes with an injury, who's your physiotherapist? Who's your doctor? What have they given us to do? And often having a yogic eye looking at a course of physiotherapy.
Yes.
The physiotherapist sometimes doesn't say, well, if you breathe in this way, it might help open up this. So it's lovely having our yoga experience that we can lend to that thing.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, I have a lot of techniques in my therapy for you know, opening up people's breathing, giving them breathing exercises to do, which actually is really important in injury anyway, because often there's a mental aspect to injury where they, you know, they're finding it very difficult to cope with the fact that they're injured. And breathing work can be very important there. But yeah, adding those movement things and being able to bring those together is, you know, when somebody is challenged in that way, can be really, really useful.
I'm interested to know, maybe first of all, were you sort of, you know, were you like on the hockey field when you were a schoolgirl, or because maybe you've come into this sports side of things from nowhere, but is it something that is kind of a knowledge inside of you? You were involved with competitive sport.
I was, interestingly, well, at school I was on the hockey field, yes. Actually, I think that was the only field that I was on, right. Because I was never a huge sports person at school or at university. I mean, I cycled everywhere when I was at university because everybody did that, but I wasn't hugely involved in sport. I think I was never the competitive sports person, which is why I think when yoga came into my life, I just took to it straight away, because I love the non-competitive nature of it. And I love the way that we can kind of internalize, we can bring our awareness inside. And that really appealed to me when I first came across yoga. I'm an active exerciser now. I mean, I do my yoga, I do Pilates, I do cardio work. It tends to be for myself. I played a little bit of tennis in my time, but not particularly competitively. But the thing that took me into the sports arena, to answer your question, is I did the yoga teacher training first, then I did the anatomy course. And just at the moment when I had started the anatomy course, I met Hayley Winter, who heads up yoga sports science, and I thought, oh my God, am I doing the right course? So, and I thought it just really spoke to me. And I thought, actually, so I spoke to Hayley about it, and actually we decided that a good path would be for me to do the anatomy course first and then go into the sport.
So
I loved it.
It was a chance meeting with someone then. It was you met her and spoke to her, and it was.
Yeah, I met her at the yoga show. She'd just completed her first course, which was not an online one. The courses we run now are online, but it was not an online one at the course. And she was at the time, and she was just about to launch the online course. And in fact, the way that it worked out was I did make that course, because I finished the course, the anatomy course with Gary Carter, and then I went straight onto that one. So it was a bit of a whirlwind of training. Yeah. But I loved it. I mean, I watched sport, and, you know, it's a great, well, I've just never been completely an athletic person, if you know what I mean.
No, me either. I think
I
it's
prefer
funny
my yoga mat.
when we enter the yoga world. I always find it hilarious when people talk about body positive yoga, which is like a new
Yeah.
term for normal people doing yoga. I think.
Yeah, yeah,
I kind of
exactly.
think, well, you know, one of the yoga teachers I had years ago, it is John Sturck, who's kind of 70 odd now, bloke, that you wouldn't necessarily. I mean, actually, he's you know, he's physically very strong, but he's
Yeah,
a 70-year-old bloke. And my yoga teacher, my teacher training was a woman who actually used to be in publishing, and
yeah.
you know, an unassuming woman that you certainly wouldn't see in Lululemon attire. And my fellow teachers were from all different walks of life, all different shapes and sizes and types. So for me, body positive, you know, yoga was yoga. And it's only really since Instagram's come along that I've noticed that it's a skinny mini thing. And maybe if I'd been starting out now, maybe I'd be too intimidated to.
Maybe we would be. I mean, actually, this is part of going on to the, you know, the subject of what I'm going to be covering in this day. So yoga is not all about stretching, but if you look at Instagram, you might think it was.
Yeah.
Because all you can see on, you know, the body perfect pictures about yoga are people who are incredibly flexible.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work for everybody, and it really doesn't work for a lot of people. I think it can be counterproductive. You know, we've got people with hypermobility, we've got people with injury history, and just, you know, just stretching, it's not enough. It really isn't. I have so many people that come to my therapy clinic with injuries, pain, or they just come for massage or whatever, and they're coming in at round about the age of, I don't know, early 40s to early 50s. They've never really needed treatment before. They've never thought about it. They've been probably quite active in a sporty way in some way, some degree, some more than others. And what I'm saying to them now is from my own experience, and that is that you do reach an age, and it's round about that age, where, you know, just playing five-a-side football once a week is not enough, or just running is not enough.
Yeah.
You know, life expectancy has increased, generally speaking, and so we need to be fitter for longer. People need to be fitter in their 50s and 60s now than they needed to in my parents' generation, because in my parents' generation they retired earlier, and now we need to keep fitter. And it's not enough just to do one or two of those things. You know, you want to be doing some strength work, whether it is in your yoga class or some other way of doing it. You want to do some mobility, flexibility work, and you need to do some sort of general fitness, because we all have this sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I sort of in my says the two of us sitting here in front of our computers, and you know, many of my clients do, and my students in my yoga classes do have that sort of lifestyle, and it takes time and commitment to develop all of those things, but really that is what we need. So I try when I'm teaching my students, and I'm teaching other teachers on teacher training type of activities, I'm always saying to them, look, you know, this is not, don't let people think yoga is about stretching, because that's not all it's about. There's so much more to it, and it is really important to build people's strength.
So
and they will feel the difference.
On the day itself, can you give me, I mean, it's in July, so I will forgive you if you don't know exactly what the day is.
Yeah, I haven't done the plan.
Do you want to give me a little bit of a flavour of what we might experience on the day?
Well, a lot of it's going to be experience on the mat, of how to, you know, taking sort of common things that we do in yoga, common postures, common sequences, looking at how we can make them both strong and comfortable. So the Patanjali Sutra, Sthira and Sukha. So having strength in what we do and having comfort in what we do. And I think that as an experience, what the feedback I get from when I deliver this kind of training from people is that their body experiences something different when they're working in this way, because rather than thinking that a particular posture is for a particular thing, so, you know, this is strengthening quads or this is stretching your hamstrings or whatever, that it takes it across the whole body so that you build an awareness of the whole body working. Just a very simple one. When we do bridge pose, do we really want the glutes to do all the work? And how can we make a change to that so that we're activating the whole body? Because when the whole body is activated, that is much more efficient for a start once you've built some strength, but also you're much less likely to injure yourself if you have an understanding of how to take that force through your whole body and how to use your breathing to maintain that. So we're going to be doing quite a bit of kind of feeling that for ourselves on various things. I'll also be talking about how you can communicate that to your students. You know, what's the kind of cueing that you can do, what lesson plans, how you can kind of do an anatomical focus to your lesson plans without them being a bit dry, that can happen if you say, oh, we're just going to work on hips today. You know, some people like that, but how do you actually do that and work that into the kind of themes that people are using in their classes? And just looking at other anatomical aspects, like, you know, how you distribute weight through the body, how you distribute force, how you use gravity, so that, you know, the body is working in the most efficient way. So those are the kind of things that I've thought of. But we're going to do some group work as well. We'll do stuff on the mats. We'll do some group work where we start putting together some lesson plans so that we can start getting our students to feel in this way, so that we're working in a way that's both efficient, and also students want to get to know their own bodies. You know, so that when they go to other yoga classes, you know, it's our duty as teachers not just to teach people, to be able to follow us. I think we need to be able to give them the tools to go to other yoga environments, whether it's workshops or International Yoga Day or just other classes or retreats or whatever, and be able to apply some of that for themselves so that they know when they are being taught by a different teacher, they've got enough awareness of their own body to make that efficient, safe, and productive.
That sounds great. That all sounds really great.
Yeah, so there's lots on there, and that's just the strength work.
Yeah, that sounds great. That really sounds lovely. It's really nice to know when you're going to be stepping into a studio for a day, the feel of what it's going to be like, and the idea of experiencing something, knowing that it's not, because sometimes, you know, depending on what you're like, but a lot of us are physical people who like to work with
Yes.
bodies, and as soon as we see a skeleton in front of us with the insertion and the this and all the fabulous words and terminology that we did now. I did an entire year of anatomy and physiology when I did my training. That was when they were really hot on it, and it was really hard and very dry, and it didn't really translate to the yoga. So I learned all this anatomy and physiology in a separate world to the experience of yoga. So to take it out of the paper and onto the mat is
that's the intention of you know, suggesting to do this day. I think anatomy sometimes is taught like that, and don't get me wrong, I think that there is a huge value in anybody who is going to be working with the body in learning their basic anatomy. These days there are apps for it. I mean, there wasn't when I did my yoga teacher training, but there was when I did my sports massage training, and that was incredibly. I used to sit in the hairdresser and learn my anatomy on my app, and my hairdresser every 6 weeks used to say to me, "Are you still not finished that course?" Because I'd be literally, that was the time I had to do it every 6 weeks and every day, sometimes coming up to exams. But you know, there is a huge value in learning the basics, because it then allows you to apply it. But most teachers have learned the basics. You know, we all know roughly where the hamstrings are, the glutes, whatever. But it's the making the connections into, you know, how that translates. So I will bring my skeleton.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've seen one in your studio. I've only got a mini one, okay, and he's lost a foot, but hey, you know, we can cope. I will bring my skeleton. I'll bring my life-size spine, because I can use those to illustrate various things. But I'm not going to be asking people, you know, how many vertebrae are there in the lumbar, the thoracic, and the cervical spine, and you know, where's the origin and insertion of the hamstrings. I'm not going to be doing that, because you don't really need that to be able to apply the basic level of knowledge. Well, the level of knowledge that most teachers would have, which I wouldn't say is basic, but I think it's, you know, I'm still learning anatomy. I'm still learning anatomy all the time in all the training that I do.
Yeah.
So yes, I will bring some things along, but we'll try not to make it dry. And I've got a few games up my sleeve.
Oh, I like playing games. Always love playing a game. So Anthea, you'll be with us. The location will be Finchley Yoga. It's open to anyone who is involved with the physical side, physical or any kind of side of teaching yoga. It's helpful to have, or at least be in the process of doing a yoga qualification in order to come along to the day. It is accepted first CPD with Yoga Alliance, with British Wheel of Yoga. Your hours with Anthea, if you're ticking those boxes, will be ticked. And that's on the 3rd of July, and it's a full day, 9:30 till 3:30. And it's called Anatomy Applied Strength. So Anthea, it would be lovely for everyone who sees this to be able to come along on that day. But if people want to get hold of you outside of that, and they've kind of heard you chat and think, oh yes, I'd love to come to one of Anthea's classes, or I need a massage because my shoulder's hurting, or whatever it is, how do people contact you?
So my website is Body Sense Yoga, so BODYSENSE yoga.co.uk. There's a contact me form on there. There's some listings for my yoga classes, and also the British Wheel IST that I do. There's information on a retreat that I have just started advertising for October, and there is also a page on my soft tissue work. So they can contact me that way. There's also a phone number on there if they want to know more details about the day.
Great. Thank you, Anthea.
My pleasure.
You can find details of Anthea's workshop and all the other workshops we're running through Finchley Yoga and Yoga Teachers Forum on the Finchley Yoga website under Teachers Forum. And we also have a very friendly, lovely group on Facebook, which is Yoga Teachers Forum London. So thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Great.